Hello and welcome. Knowing version control is a must for any successful programmer. There are two version control tools that you need to learn, Git and GitHub. I have watched many tutorials on YouTube about this topic, but most of them just overcomplicate things. Git and GitHub are very easy to understand. In this video, I will explain Git and GitHub to you like a 5-year-old kid. Even if you don't know anything about programming, you will understand how it works. This is the only video you need to watch on this topic. So without further ado, let's dive in. So the first thing I want to mention is Git and GitHub. Git and GitHub are completely two different things. So what is Git? Git is a software that you install in your local machine. And the point of having Git is you can save checkpoint, aka version of your code. So in other words, Git is a memory card for your code. Imagine that you are video game players. Let's say this is you and you're at level 10. You go out to battles, you fight some monster and you win. You kill them. So you're at level 15 right now. So you have some muscle now. So this is one of the checkpoints. So you save your progress here. You save your checkpoint. But will you stop here? No. The journey continues. You fight other monsters. So now you're getting stronger now. You fight bigger monsters. But they are too strong. So you will kill at the battle. Will you go back to level 1 and start over again? No, you don't want to do that, right? You will go back to the latest checkpoint, which is level 15, and start again. Git works exactly the same ways. You can save your progress along the way. And let's say right here, you try to experiment something and it doesn't work. You can always go back to the latest working checkpoint. So how about GitHub? Once you save the checkpoint using Git, the change is only saved in your local machine. What if you want to share this change with other developers on the internet? GitHub is a website that allows you to do that. I will show you the basic UI of GitHub later on. But for now, just imagine that GitHub is a giant cloud that saves the progress of every developer who works on the project. The next thing I want to talk about is the difference between a local repository and a remote repository. So first of all, what is a repository? A repository is a folder. It's a place where you store your code. It's not a magic tool or anything like that. And a local repository is a folder in your local machine where you store your code. And a remote repository is a folder on the internet where you store your code. And GitHub is an example of a remote repository. There are other products as well, such as GitLab or Bitbucket. So when I was an internet reffin, I used to use this product, Bitbucket. But GitHub is the most common product. And how do local repositories and remote repository work together? So let's say you have two developers working on the same project, Amy and Pop, right? That means each developer will have a checkpoint or version in their own local machine. And where do they get that? They will get that from a remote repository. So what they can do is they can do a clone. So they basically copy everything on the remote repository to their own local repository. Let's say they are working days and nights trying to complete the project. And Amy just finished a new feature. So what she can do is she can push that code to the remote repository. So now everything is up to date here. And she can tell Pop, hey Pop, I just finished something new. Do you want to check it out? Pop says, sure, why not? So what Pop can do is Pop can pull the change from the remote repository to his local machine. So now Amy change is reflected on Pop repository. Alright, so next we're gonna talk about Git history. As I mentioned before, the way Git works is the developer will save their progress along the way, right? So each of these save or checkpoint is called a commit. And these commits basically stack up against each other. So this is the first commit, this is the second commit, this is the third commit. And the developers can always go back to any of these commits if they wish to. So let's go back to the video games example, right? So let's say this is you at level 1. Now this is you at level 5. This is you at level 10. This is you at level 15. This is you at level 20. So let's say you will kill here. You can decide to go back to level 15 and start again. And the final thing I want to discuss is Git branch. This concept is extremely important. So you will use this a lot when you are a developer. So the idea of Git branch is when you first initialize a project, everything, every commit, every checkpoint are saved in one single branch. And this is called master branch. Now, so each of these nodes is a commit, as I show you. The master branch is a branch that will work all the time. You don't want to mess up with the master branch because if it's messed up, you have no backup to fall back on. So let's say you want to try some new things. You want to build a new feature for the project, but you're unsure whether or not it will work. So what you can do is you can create a new branch. I will call this feature, and then you start developing. So you make several commits in this branch. At some point, you decide that, oh, this is actually working. You want to combine your change in the feature to the master branch. So what you can do is you can do a merge operation, and you're gonna do that through a pull request. So I will show you an example after this. So if you don't know what a pull request is, don't worry. Let's say if you decide that that feature doesn't work, you can simply ignore the feature because this branch is irrelevant to the master branch. It's a completely new set of commits. So if you ignore it, it will not affect the master branch and nothing will happen. So there's another important concept that I want to explain here, which is called Git rebase. So the idea behind Git rebase is, let's say you have a master branch, right? You make several commits in the master branch. At this point, you decide to create new features. So you split things up. What you can do is you can do something called a rebase. So a rebase means you just take whatever you have now and stick to the master branch. So this way, you will have a cleaner repository. So everything is in line with the master branch. So let's get into a live example. So right here, I'm opening a new folder called Git demo. So this is going to be the demo of our project. And let's say I decided to add two files. The first one is app.js and the second one is app.py. So it's a JavaScript file and a Python file. So now you check the folder, there are two files exist here. So currently these two files are empty. So right now, we haven't do anything with Git yet. So what you can do now is you can initialize a local repository in your local machine. So what I can do is I can type in git init. So what Git does is it will create an empty Git repository in my current folder. So basically what Git does is it will create a hidden folder called .git. And this folder will have the Git software track our changes in the current folder. The next command I want to teach you is git status. So what git status do is it will show you which files are being tracked and which files are not being tracked. So right now we can see that there are two untracked files, app.js and app.py, right? The reason why they are untracked is because we just create the files, but we didn't add that to the repository. So what you can do is, in order to add them to the repository, you can use git add. Alright, so git add will add the file to the repository. So since we are in the current folder and these two files are both untracked, so what you can do is you can type in git add dot. So dot means the current folder. So that means we add everything that is not tracked in the current folder to the local repository. Okay. So now you type in git status again. You will see that these two files are being tracked right now. Okay, so they're green. They're no longer red. So when we add them to the local repository, we didn't actually save the progress. Remember I mentioned about a checkpoint in the conceptual overview. In order to save the checkpoint, you have to create a git commit. So you can type in git commit -m. So -m means message and you can specify the message here. So the message for this change is create app.js and app.py. You can see that there are two file changes. What it does is it will save this progress in your local machine. So how do you check this progress? So let me clear up the screen first. You can type in something called git log. Alright, so you can see that it saved your commit here. So the message of the commit is create app.js and create app.py. And let's say you decide to remove the Python file and you want to add in an HTML file. So let's say you remove app.py and you add in a new index.html. Right, so now in the folder there's a JavaScript file and an HTML file. How do you save this change? So you do exactly the same thing. You type in git status, you see that a file has been deleted and a new file has been added. Alright, so you can call git add, so save everything in the current folder. Then call git commit, so the message could be remove app.py and add index.html. So you just make another checkpoint to the local repository. So we can check that by typing git log. So this is the second commit that we have, right? This is the first commit. Oh, let's say you decide that you don't want to remove the Python file and add a new HTML file. It was a mistake. So what you can do is you can go back to the last working commit by using git checkout. So git checkout this. Right, so now when you type in ls, you can see that in your folder there's a Python file and a JavaScript file, because you just like undo the commit you have that you have make changes. If you want to go back to this commit, you can do that too. So git checkout. So now in your folder there's no longer the Python file and it was replaced by the index.html. So the next thing I want to talk about is how can you publish this change from your local machine to a remote repository. I will hop on to a website called GitHub. So this is the UI of the website. All right. You have to create an account first. I already did that, so I don't have to do that again. And in order to create a repository here, you have to click create new, then new repository. So type in some name here. I will call it Git demo. You can type some description here, but I will leave it as it is. You can set it to either public or private. So I will set it to public because I will not use this repo after this. And you can also initialize the repo with a README file. So let's say you just create some new complex features, right? But you are the developer. You are the only person who understands how it works. So you can create a README file, which is essentially a documentation of your code. So other developers can take a look at it and reproduce the same result. So I will hit create repository here. They also provide some guidance of how to push your changes in the on the local machine to GitHub. A very important command you need to pay attention here is git remote add origin. So what it does is it will add the current folder or the current repository to this remote repository. So when I hit enter, so now our local repository is connected to GitHub. Once you already connect to the remote repository, you want to push your code to GitHub, right? So what you can do is you can run push git push origin main. All right. So now when you go to the GitHub website, reload the page, voila. So now you see an app.js file and an HTML file. So let's say you want to make some changes to the file. So let's say I want to make changes to app.js file. So basically just console log hello world and save it. So now you just make some changes, right? I will type in git status. So app.js file has been modified. So I will add app.js file to the local repository and create a commit. I will tell Git that I just modify app.js. So after I do this, I just do git push origin main. Alright, so now when you check in app.js, the change has been reflected. But normally, you don't want to push your change directly to the main or the master branch. What you want to do is, you want to create a separate branch and then make your changes there, then create a pull request. So I will demonstrate how you would do that here. So first, you're going to type git branch. So git branch will list out all the branches that you currently have in your local machine. So right now we're on the main branch, and that's the only branch that we have. So to create a new branch, you can call git checkout -b and then the name of the branch. So I will call it new branch. So what it does is it will check out the branch that are available in your local machine, and if the branch doesn't exist, it will create a new branch. Now when I type in git branch again, there's a new branch called new branch, and we are on this branch. Okay, let's say we decide to make some change in this branch. So you create a new Python file. You want to add something to this. So let's say bring hello world. Alright, so git status. So you can see that app.py has been modified, right? So we need to add this to the local repo. So git add, git commit, add app.py. So now you can call git push origin, but now we're on a new branch, so we have to call git push origin new branch. So now when we go to the repo, refresh, so you can see that on the new branch, we have a new Python file right here. And the Python file have one line, bring hello world. Alright, so when you push a new change here, you will see that there's a button on GitHub that says compare and create pull request. So click on this. So this is where you will create a pull request. So you're going to add the title of your changes. You're going to write some description here. So write add app.py. So make some change. You can also preview your changes as well. So when you work at a company, you will need to pay some attention on how to write a proper pull request, because if you don't write properly, other developers don't understand. They are very likely to reject your pull request. You don't want that. But this is a simple example, so I will keep it simple. Here, you can create a pull request. So it says this branch has no conflict with the base branch. That means this branch doesn't have any conflict with the master branch, so we are safe to merge it. Okay? Usually, another developers will review your code, and if he approves it, then you can merge the pull request. But in this case, I'm the only developer in this project, so I just review it. I think it's good. Merge the pull request. Confirm merge. Alright, so right now, when you go in back to the code base, this is the main branch, right? You can see that there's an app.py file. So right now we on the main branch, right? And the main branch have 5 different files: app.js, git ignore, index.html, secret.txt, and start.css. So let's say you want to check out a new branch. So we call it checkout B. And this branch is to develop a new feature. So we call that branch feature. Okay. So now we're on the feature branch. So you can add a new file. Let's say my feature.py. You can add this to the repo and create a new commit called my feature. Okay. Okay, cool. So far so good. But right now, let's say on the main branch, there are some new changes. So I will check out back to the main branch. I will create a new file called main.py. I add that to the main branch and create a comment. So add main. So now in the main branch, there's a new file called main.py. But this file doesn't exist in the feature branch. So I will check out to feature branch. So the difference between the main branch and the feature branch is the main branch have a main.py file and the feature branch have a myfeature.py file. But this file doesn't exist in the main branch and this file doesn't exist in the feature branch. So to do a rebase, that means we want to bring this main.py file on our feature branch. So we rebase our change to the master branch. So what we can do is we just call rebase main. So now when we look at our folders, right now there's a new file called main.py. And we're still in the feature branch. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoy it. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. That support the channel a lot, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.